teams. I'm excited, Adam. There is a Regieleki apiece on these teams, but I want to just focus on Naoto's team here first of all. We've got that Zacian coming back into play, a Pokemon that has been really key since it's been able to come into sort of the video game format, along with some really classic contenders that we've seen before. You know, Incineroar on there, the Amoonguss as well, being that grass type, redirection, putting Pokemon to sleep can be really kind of tricksy as a Pokemon to try and get around. And then again, kind of solidifying that Fire Water Grass core, you've got the Urshifu Rapid Strike variant as well that can apply a lot of good pressure if you're able to, you know, get it out into the field unintimidated. So you've just got to watch out for that Incineroar I spy on Arash's side of the field.
And it's got a number of interesting options to try and counter what Naoto has. So Arash with a really nice team there, the Shadow Rider Calyrex along with the Rapid Strike Urshifu of his own. Just for you, Lou, we get another Regieleki over there. That Incineroar, which, you know, could be trying to cause some problems. They do share the Incineroar as well. I know you weren't as excited about that. But then some different picks towards the end. You know, the Rillaboom isn't matched over on Naoto's side, and this Nihilego is something very unique that Arash is bringing. Of course, I mentioned earlier, Arash was a phenomenal team builder when he won the World Championships, and both of them, actually every player in this tournament, has been tasked with a pretty interesting kind of new challenge, right? Right at the beginning of Series 10, it's like, hey, you got to build a team for this really cool tournament right when the format's brand new. And I want to see what you can do. So I think every trainer's gone with something a little bit different, just trying to get their feet wet and really break it down. So seeing these two very different teams go head-to-head with a different restricted should be great fun.
Yeah, you're right there. It really is kind of a challenge we're throwing down to the best of the best Pokemon players out there. How creative can you get? And also, can you bank on your experience that you've got previously to know which Pokemon are going to be solid in a meta like this? And I think it's very insightful to kind of look at a brand new meta and, you know, almost try and call exactly how it's going to fall into place without having the luxury of time going by and seeing what's been tried and tested. This really is kind of the opening of Series 10. So I think, Adam, without further ado, we should jump into Game 1 and see between Zacian and the Calyrex Shadow Rider, which one is going to be victorious out of the two restricteds.
Zacian, you know, as soon as it's been available, has always been getting good usage in the restricted formats we've had when they've popped up. And I think a lot of people now are feeling the same way about Calyrex Shadow Rider, that you have to consider it when team building. But, you know, there's a couple of different people playing the Shadow Rider as well. So I think very interesting to see that one match up as the leads take the field, and we're in for a good one.
Yeah, well, both restricteds jump out into the fray straight away. We've got that Calyrex and the Rillaboom out there on Arash's side of the field with the Grimmsnarl and the Zacian for Naoto. And of course, that Intrepid Sword ability has activated, giving that Zacian a +1 attack stat straight away.
I think the Zacian wants to try and set itself up as best it can and you know, try and just run through the team and getting the support from the Grimmsnarl and being able to set up some screens, the light screen and the reflect, both available. We can see Naoto hovering between the two of them there. You know, just making sure the Zacian's nice and safe, can just work through the early portion of the game. Maybe try and deal with that Calyrex early on. Of course, you just got to be respectful of the Rillaboom, though. I mean, the Rillaboom can cause all kinds of problems.
Exactly, and I think if you're Naoto, that is the decision you need to make. Do you want to go for light screen or reflect? And you're facing down against one Pokemon that's a special attacker, one against the physical. So you need to call which one's going to be more difficult for you. And the fake out coming straight away from that Rillaboom into the Zacian, as I believe the light screen has come up from the Grimmsnarl here. So just going to be protecting Naoto's side of the field from any of those special attacks, but no damage coming out from that Calyrex. It's just going to hide behind a cheeky substitute. And I absolutely love this play. Being able to set it up really freely for Arash does now give him the opportunity to deal out some really big damage with that Calyrex.
That's a fantastic play from Arash. Keeping the Calyrex safe is really important here, and the Calyrex is going to need more time to work through and put that damage down because of the light screen that Naoto just put up. The purple hue to the screen there, giving that one away for those of you wondering at home. But back to the point. There is going to need to be more turns dealing damage, and getting yourself behind the substitute really, really important. Making sure that you can take a hit while you may take 2 or 3 more hits. Really smart play, and I like that Naoto looks at the board positioning and says, you know what? You're not going to try dealing big damage with the Rillaboom. You're going to spend the turn fake outing. So I'm going to take advantage and get the light screen up first. But then Arash answers it so well by saying, okay, you're going to put the screen up. I'm putting a substitute up.
Yeah, and again, a really strong play here by Arash, bringing in the Incineroar to negate that Intrepid Sword boost onto the Zacian. And the Calyrex playing defensively once again, wants to keep that substitute intact, doesn't have to worry about any kind of Dynamax in this particular format, so just going to protect itself. But the Zacian able to capitalize on this, maybe predicting that Incineroar was a nice switch in there, is now going to boost itself up with the Sword Stance to +2 attack, and Calyrex going to be able to protect itself, using the grassy terrain there to kind of regain a little bit of HP as well.
Yeah, making sure it's nice and safe. And what I'm really liking and enjoying about this game so far is it's all about positioning and setups. You know, in some of the games we saw earlier today, they were fast and furious. I mean, there was big attacks coming out of these restricted Pokemon early on. This one's a little bit different. The restricted Pokemon realize they're the focal point of the team and are really keen to set up. I like that the Calyrex is playing safe. They're playing with that substitute, something that we haven't really seen as much recently compared to in previous years when it's been a huge factor. But then the Zacian being respectful, of course, of the Intimidates coming through, you know, trying to set up those sword stances, really, really key, and just playing it really smart. But it's finally time for Calyrex to launch an attack.
Finally is, goes for the Astral Barrage, but thanks to the light screen, isn't going to be able to deal as much damage as we know it would normally like to be able to do. It looks like the Grimmsnarl is going to be able to go for a Spirit Break into that slot. Those Substitute, of course, going to be able to eat up all of this damage, but it looks like it is enough to break that Substitute, and Calyrex is now no longer protected by that. As well, the Incineroar coming into the field, going for that Fake Out once again into Zacian. You know, poor Zacian, it's being sort of flinched left, right, and center at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see how Zacian is going to be able to deal with this Incineroar. You know, it doesn't want to take any of those fire types, but if it is running something like that Sacred Sword that we've seen dropped on Zacian quite often in favor for something like a substitute, then it is going to have some way of dealing some good damage against it.
Yeah, if the Zacian has substitute, it might want to try and weave one in. But then this is a closed team sheet format. I mean, they're not going to be playing with full knowledge of each other's teams like we have in some other events recently. So there is going to be a little more about just scoping this one out and just making sure that you don't make a mistake. And I think this game is very much both players respecting each other and trying to get a grip on the moveset and the way that they're trying to play the game. So really nicely managed. If this Zacian can land an attack, it's going to start picking up knockouts. And that's all Naoto really needs to do. I like going after that substitute with the Spirit Break, you know, making sure that you're not wasting one of these high impact moves on dealing with that substitute, and having that option on the Grimmsnarl just really, really nice, being able to try and do that. And the Calyrex now, with no sub, forced to be a little safer.
Yeah, a little bit more ball positioning going on here. Arash switching things up. Is the Grimmsnarl able to set up that Reflect this time here with the orange glow revealing the move? Rillaboom is going to have to take the Sacred Sword. However, at +2, it is going to deal a huge chunk of damage, but not enough to be able to pick up a KO. And it's nice that Arash now has the opportunity to go for another Fake Out here, stop the Zacian from dealing any more of this kind of boosted damage, allow the Calyrex to either maybe try and set up another substitute or deal some damage while Fake Out's in play. And knowing that you have the Incineroar in the back later to re-intimidate and re-Fake Out another day does give Arash some really strong options here.
Arash has plenty of time to move the board around. I mean, 2 Fake Outs, basically making sure there's always one available next to the Calyrex, trying to find an opening for the Calyrex to play, and I really like that. Naoto finally taking the time, though, quite wisely, setting up that extra screen as well. Now both the screens are in play. Going to be in a great position to maybe play a little more fast and loose, throw out some attacks, because you know you can take the hits. And if you can just throw out your attacks doing more damage, you'll probably be feeling pretty good about that. So, you know, I think Naoto has the option to go on the offensive, and I like what Arash is doing here, actually, with this switch.
It's very much a slow and steady kind of strategy at the moment here from Arash, preserving that Calyrex, knowing that you've got the Rillaboom there. You can bring that Incineroar in again to go for Fake Out into that next turn. Looks like Incineroar was able to protect itself from any damage there, I think, due to its typing. And it's going to have to take the Behemoth Blade that was coming out into that Calyrex slot, and being a fire type, going to be able to take that really well. Rillaboom not going for any Fake Out here, instead repositioning once again. Arash really thinking, you know, several turns in advance here, knowing exactly what ball position he wants to go. Able to switch off the field here, and it gives Arash the opportunity to bring in one Pokemon from the back and have a better ball position going into the next turn.
It's really different how they're playing this game, though. Naoto has the same leading 2 that have just been sat on the field all game, and Arash has been switching around and trying to find that premium position to maybe go on the offensive a little bit more. That said, I mean, Arash has done it very effectively and hasn't actually taken that much damage. I know the key to being good and switching smartly involves, can you get in for free? Like, that Incineroar came in, didn't take anything from the Grimmsnarl. You know, the Grimmsnarl having the Prankster ability, Incineroar being a dark type, making sure that it stays nice and safe. But it's all about finding that premium position, and Arash has done that very, very effectively. is, got the fake out available this turn. He's got the intimidate down to try and help out against the Zacian. So a lot going into this game from both sides. But Arash just, I think, maybe a step behind trying to find that premium position.
Yeah, and I think you're right there as well. It is a closed format tournament, as you mentioned, Adam. And so game one is really about the information. And Grimmsnarl going for what I believe was the Thunder Wave there, going down into the dark typing of that Incineroar means that it's not going to be able to do any damage, but it's good information for Arash to know that Grimmsnarl has that capability. And when you've got Pokemon like Calyrex that like to be on that speedier side, the last thing that you want is to have their speed reduced. And then, lo and behold, even maybe get a paralysis chance in there as well. We know how much that can turn a game. So although there are some really good switches coming out from Arash, he does have to play very cautiously around the potential of this Grimmsnarl and also start dealing some damage. At the end of the day with Pokemon, you've got to pick up the KOs in order to win.
Yeah, that's the only way you gotta get there. I mean, there is obviously other win conditions, but the easiest and most common one, we'll put it that way, is of course taking all the knockouts. So, Arash probably wants to try and look for one of those. The Zacian going to be an important one to try and land that on because of how much it's done with setting up and making sure it retains its boost. But it's going to be really, really hard when you keep getting Thunder Waved, and you're going slower.
Exactly. And, thankfully, Calyrex was able to break through any paralysis chance there and does get that substitute set up. But, Grimmsnarl being able to find its mark that time and target down against it. Arash opting to obviously go for the fake out into that opposing Zacian to stop it dealing out some really big damage did leave the Calyrex vulnerable to that Thunder Wave.
Now the Calyrex might be behind the substitute, but it's going to be a little more limited in how it can try and deal the damage, which I think, is something that Arash has to be careful of. He spent a lot of time trying to get it into this position, and Naoto just weaved in that perfect little Thunder Wave to make life really difficult. The Thunder Wave is going to be a bit of a problem because the Calyrex isn't moving first. It's going to be pretty easy for Naoto to double up on that when he finds an opportunity, throw something like the Spirit Breakdown, which we know from earlier in the game breaks the substitute, and then following up with another attack afterwards. So definitely a bit of a thinker for Arash. I think the Calyrex is still going to be a very important focal point, though, and Naoto finally making a change.
Yeah, no, so bringing that Grimmsnarl into the back. Arash is doing a really good job of kind of burning through those screen turns at the moment. You want to keep Grimmsnarl around, maybe for later to get them reset up. But Zacian able to pick up the KO in this game one here against that Incineroar. So no more switching from Arash, and no more intimidating and fake out from that particular Pokemon. Calyrex able to jump out from the substitute and go for the Astral Barrage and catch both these Pokemon here. Going to do some decent damage to that opposing Zacian, but of course Incineroar able to take that really, really well. Gets in here, able to now apply fake out pressure from Naoto's side of the field for once.
The game has just come alive. Both trainers using their restricted choice to go after each other and deal damage. But just look how much more impactful Naoto's successful attack was from his restricted. He took a knockout, he took away a key switching option from Arash, so that probably being a little more important and forcing Arash to reveal his fourth Pokemon. In this case, it's the Urshifu. On the flip side, with the screen there from earlier, the Calyrex just wasn't as impactful. And yes, we finally got a turn where both of them went for it, but it's going to take a little while to get the same knockouts.
Yeah, this is definitely a scary Pokemon to come onto the field if you're Naoto here, because being the Urshifu Rapid Strike variant, you have that water typing, you can apply a lot of pressure to something like that Incineroar, and then also again with sort of your fighting typing, you can target down, to be honest, both of the Pokemon on Naoto's side of the field. And if the Urshifu is able to get onto the field unintimidated, as it has been able to here as Naoto's Incineroar is already on the field, then it can go for some of those really strong surging strikes or close combats and deal a huge chunk of damage to Naoto's team here. Urshifu is just, however, going to go for the Detect, maybe scouting out what Naoto wants to do or burn through one of Naoto's own Protects here. Calyrex as well, just going for the Protect. So, burning through another turn of this Light Screen and Reflect on Naoto's side, and Arash really kind of biding his time here to see what moves he wants to go for into the following turn.
Getting through the end of the screens, as you pointed out, is going to be really, really important for Arash. And I think after that last turn, seeing how little the Calyrex did, probably feeling like, I just got to get through to the other side of this. The concern is that, of course, that Grimmsnarl's still available in the back. It's still there, and it can still come out and reset those screens as soon as they drop. So I think Arash is going to have to look for a window where the screen isn't up, the Light Screen or the Reflect. The Reflect went up a couple turns after, actually, so that's even further away. And this Urshifu is going to be limited when trying to deal some of this. And I think, you're not just able to fire off a close combat and just freely take knockouts.
Oh, exactly. And Naoto really does have to calculate when the right time to bring Grimmsnarl back in is. And, well, looks like it could be soon approaching as Grimmsnarl does rejoin the battlefield. Zacian going to go for another one of these powerful Behemoth Blades. I love this animation, Adam. Always amazing to see. Going into the substitute, they're going to be, of course, underwhelming damage. Nothing goes down on that HP bar, but it will do, I believe, the critical thing here and break that substitute. So Calyrex rejoins the battlefield once more. Urshifu is going to be going for those surging strikes into what I believe was going to be that Incineroar slot. It was indeed, so that Grimmsnarl is going to have to take 1, 2, and 3 critical hits as per kind of what the move does. Let's be honest, it always gets those 3 critical hits, but Grimmsnarl able to survive and hang on here. But Calyrex might have something to say about it, going for that Astral Barrage. 26 HP, is it going to be enough? No, Grimmsnarl is going to fall victim to it. So Naoto bringing in that Pokemon, sacrificing it here, and no longer will have the opportunity to get screens up later on. And actually, it's a double knockout with the Zacian going down as well. Calyrex going to be able to get that Grim Nade boost. What a brilliant turn there for Arash. Finally switching on that kind of offensive strategy here and picking up a double KO.
I really, really like this. I like that Arash has, I mean, it's a slower game plan, but finally found the opportunity for the Calyrex to do exactly what he's been looking for since early in the game. Come out from behind the substitute, use that substitute to stay safe from, in this case, the Behemoth Blade, and then fire off an Astral Barrage for the knockouts. Obviously, you know, it really, really helps when your Urshifu is coming around and dropping big fat damage with the Surging Strikes, because then you're not reaching. But the Urshifu moving first and then being able to, you know, pick up the knockout and get the Grim Nade boosts going on. That just swings the game so drastically. And while it was a slower early game, I think we see why very clearly here.
Yeah, exactly. Being able to sort of capitalize on the offensive pressure that Calyrex has and bypassing any paralysis chances here. That's always something that has me kind of very tense in a match, is wondering whether those secondary effects are going to go off here. If you're Naoto, though, you do have a few options to consider here. You do have, you know, the fake out there on the Incineroar that you can go for into that opposing Urshifu, but then you're leaving this Calyrex free to go for some really good damage in this situation. So you might need your Urshifu, if you're Naoto, to try and deal with that Calyrex before it is able to move. Fake out does lock down into that Urshifu, but instead we're just going to see a Rock Tomb come out from Naoto's Urshifu into the opposing Urshifu that is going to, I believe, lower the speed of that opposing Pokemon. Calyrex, however, untouched in this particular turn, does huge damage with the Astral Barrage. That Grim Nade boost really paying off, picks up a solid KO against that Urshifu and really brings down the HP bar on that Incineroar.
There's nothing you can do once that boost has come through, and that is actually something I think is interesting. If we look at the items on Urshifu, traditionally, it's just been Focus Sash for a very, very long time, and that's something that, you know, I think was a staple when building in previous formats, but now times has changed. You know, we're obviously getting some of the best creative team builders around. They're playing it a little bit differently. No Focus Sash there on Naoto's side. Did go for the Assault Vest instead, as, you know, the Urshifu wraps up the game, but going for that Assault Vest just wasn't enough against the boosts that the Shadow Rider Calyrex had got. So easy to knock out and wasn't able to try and fire back. And doesn't get any information about what might be the item over on Arash's side either.
Yeah, that's very true. Game 1 being such an information game in a closed sort of tournament format with the team sheets. Certainly, a lot of information was revealed, particularly knowing that, you know, there's a substitute there on the Calyrex, knowing that the Grimmsnarl has that Thunder Wave as well. It just means that you do have to be a little bit more careful of allowing the opposing Pokemon to go for these kind of setup strategies. You know, we also saw the Swords Dance on the Zacian. Not the most surprising of things. We've seen it time and time again. But knowing that Naoto has that option is something that if you're Arash, you have to be careful with. And I think it was a very interesting game, how it started off quite slow and steady. A lot of switching, a lot of protecting, a lot of maybe scouting out that information. And then suddenly Arash was able to go really offensive, start picking up those solid KOs. And unfortunately, Naoto just was on the back foot a little bit there and just couldn't get the KOs before Arash was able to.
It was definitely the longest, I think, kind of slower paced game that we've had today, so far at least. Who knows what's coming a little bit later in the day. But, you know, that doesn't mean it was a bad game. I think both trainers really learned a lot about each other in that game. They learned about the items, the way that they were positioning and setting things up. They learned about the movesets as well, which is vital. And now they've got to take that information and bring it along with them into game 2. Let's get that one rolling. And let's see if maybe now they know a little bit more about each other's teams, they do go a little bit faster and try and get these board positions just a little bit earlier. Or are we going to have kind of a similar situation with lots of setup, lots of time to let this game run through?
Well, I was also very sad, Adam, to not see any Regieleki in that particular match. It may not be the call, but I'm forever hopeful. As you can see, the leads for this game too have jumped onto the field. Arash going for that Calyrex and Incineroar, with Naoto going for the Zacian and the Grimmsnarl once again here. So the Intrepitor boost will be negated by the Intimidate coming out from that Incineroar. And then once again, Arash has that opportunity where there's Fake Out on the field and the potential to get a substitute up.
Yep, this could be a great turn for Arash, getting the Calyrex nicely set up. It's kind of a trade-off that he has to make, though. He gets to fake out the Zacian, that's great. Gets his substitute up, that's grand. But then you've just left the Grimmsnarl to start throwing up screens, potentially, which is going to be a little bit annoying. And we saw that Arash really waited and wanted to get through the end of the game where those screens weren't a factor anymore. So it is a nice lead. I think Incineroar, Shadow Rider, Calyrex works well together, but you've got to make those trade-offs to put yourself in the best position. And Naoto stuck with his lead a long time last game, but an early mix-up here.
Yeah, it certainly is. The Incineroar going to go for the fake out into that opposing Grimmsnarl, stop any of those potential screens as the Calyrex decides to not go defensive this time. Astral Barrage straight away does a good chunk of damage to that opposing Grimmsnarl. Remember, there's no light screen in action thanks to the fake out, and the Incineroar that switched in is able to take it reasonably well, but that's still a significant chunk of damage against it. I mean, now if you're Naoto, you do have the option to go for something like that fake out in return to the opposing Incineroar, but there's not really a lot you can do to stop that Calyrex.
The Calyrex kind of answers on the field are very, very limited, and I think Naoto's best bet is throwing up that light screen and just taking those Astral Barrages better than before. But I like that Arash has started going for it. I think it's a definite change in style to what we saw in game number 1, and it sort of says, well, I don't want to play the long game anymore where the Grimmsnarl is going to sit there, set up all the screens and make me wait. I'm just going to go for it and try and knock you out early. So a definite change up in style. Naoto also making adjustments, maybe seeing how Arash played with that Calyrex inspired him to kind of do something similar with his Zacian and saying, okay, well, let's not play it that way until it's in a perfect board position.
Yeah, and Arash changing things up once again, knowing that the Incineroar is going to be critical. You know, later on in the game, you want to have it to be able to intimidate the Zacian in the back and have that fake out utility. To bring in Rillaboom here onto the field, I think is a nice opportunity. Naoto is going to have to target down that opposing Calyrex, so maybe this was a safe switch in for that opposing Rillaboom. It is going to be, I believe, the Reflect coming up there. So just going to be protecting any physical damage here as the parting shot comes out from that opposing Incineroar. So no offensive pressure here. Naoto actually deciding to shake things up here and go and reposition the ball position on his side of the field as well. Possibly you can bring that Zacian back in, try and get that boost up and then apply some pressure going forward. But you have to watch out for the Rillaboom having disjoint.
The Rillaboom, it has to be respected and it can cause a lot of problems. I think the Zacian switching is absolutely the right play here. I obviously got to see what the fourth Pokemon was. Well, you'll be excited. Not the time for it. So Naoto playing it smart and, you know, it kind of forces Arash's hand a little bit, I think. I think the way that Arash now has to look at it and something that got learned in game number 1, you've got to deal with it. You've got to get the Intimidate down on it. So you've got to make a switch somewhere. You've got to, you know, put that pressure on and bring in the Incineroar to get Intimidate down and reapply Fake Out pressure. So while he's doing that, you can maybe set up a Swords Dance and then start going on the offensive. Or even, if you're feeling, you know, a little braver about it, just call where it's coming in and go after it with an attack. Try and, you know, call it on the way in. This Zacian does have access to the Sacred Sword, and that's going to be pretty punishing for an Incineroar if it comes in. So an option to either try and get the switch in or set up the Swords Dance, and then the next turn, it doesn't matter, you're good to go. And there it is. We'll see how Naoto responds to it.
Yeah, Naoto has so many options there. You can see him hovering over that light screen option, but then maybe you would want to go for that Thunder Wave into that opposing Calyrex, but you have to be wary of the play that Arash made last time. That we've just seen play out again with that Incineroar coming in, which would have wasted that Thunder Wave move. And Naoto actually not going for a move at all on Grimmsnarl, preserving it in the back and bringing Incineroar back into the fray, which is really nice to kind of catch both these physical Pokemon on Arash's side, you know, lower their attack by a stage and then apply that fake up pressure going forward. Zacian's just going to be able to protect herself up here, maybe feeling it was going to be the target of a fake out from that opposing Rillaboom. Just doesn't want to take any unnecessary damage here.
No, and I think the Zacian playing it safe there isn't a bad thing. Naoto definitely could have started to, you know, thread the needle a little bit, if you will, with a big call or a big setup turn. But was definitely smart and respectful about what Arash was doing, bringing in his own Incineroar, saying, you know what, I can set up the light screen later. Let's just make sure that your two physical attackers at least, can't deal the damage to me. So nice bit of setup there. I think maybe a little bit more out the Zacian would have been preferred. That's just my opinion, though, and I think keeping it safe and keeping it healthy is probably more important.
We could very well be seeing in this game too a similar kind of setup to game one, where it really does come down to the Pokemon preserved at the end to pick up those solid KOs. Incineroar going to go for the fake out onto the Zacian this time. You know, that's the utility of having kind of two fake out Pokemon on your team. Arash does have many options, and, you know, putting one right back into its Pokeball in the back with that U-turn does still give Arash that momentum later on in the game. And once again, giving a free switch in here, knowing that you've gone for that fake out into the opposing Zacian, you don't have to worry about it going for a cheeky sword stance or any kind of offensive move in this situation. It maybe gives the opportunity, while you know that the Incineroar is going to burn its fake out on Naoto's side, to bring in your Urshifu here so it can be in a real prime position. But looks like Naoto is realizing the importance of the Incineroar in this match, goes for the parking shot into the opposing Incineroar, back into the Pokeball, and now Naoto has that option to bring it in later on, intimidate these physical attackers once more, and still apply pressure with that fake out. We saw how well the Urshifu for Arash was able to play in game one. And, you know, Regieleki's on the field. I'm super excited. It's going to be a great Pokemon to target down against that water-type Pokemon Urshifu. But I don't believe, Adam, we know the item on that opposing Urshifu yet.
We don't, and that's something that I think Naoto, when playing out that end of game one, didn't quite figure it out either, so needs to be a little bit smarter about it. Something that's crazy about this Regieleki that I want to call out, I know Aaron and Rosemary talked about it earlier, we can see it, it's on Naoto's side, it's holding a Choice Scarf. So if it comes to speed, it's just beyond faster than anything, and there's no way to handle it. And I like Naoto bringing it in this game, actually, just because, you know, we hadn't quite seen it yet, and I want to see if it can put the pressure down. I mean, last match, they got towards the end, and the Urshifu on Naoto's side wasn't able to stand up to what Arash was offering, even with that Assault Vest. So I like that Naoto's changed it, and I think it's going to cause a lot of problems to something like this Urshifu, you know, and then if you can lower the speeds as well, that Zacian's going to really appreciate that. So whatever it locks into is a big question mark here, but it's going to be important and it's going to be moving really fast. And I do like this, actually. I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, I certainly am too. Looks like Regieleki is as well, is bouncing around very happily there. Zacian able to get that sword stance up as well. We know Naoto likes to get that up so we can have that offensive pressure going forward. But again, some great sort of opportunities here from Arash, bringing in that Rillaboom, being able to apply that fake out pressure, knowing then that the Urshifu doesn't have to worry so much about this opposing Regieleki and can maybe start either trying to target it down, remove it from play, or start trying to deal some damage to that opposing Zacian. Particularly now the sword stance boost is up. It's not a Pokemon you can ignore if you're Arash.
Oh, no, you can't. Both of these are causing problems, and I think Naoto's played this one really, really well. Trying to get that Volt Switch in is going to be absolutely key as well. It can Volt Switch out and once again throw down the Incineroar to get that Intimidate onto the Rillaboom, cause that problem for Arash. Could be really, really important. So the fake out, you know, trying to help out here, but Regieleki says, "Now, see you later."
Yeah, it gets in off the field here straight away and revealing the Focus Sash on that Urshifu. You talked earlier, Adam, about how that tended to be the really popular item on Urshifu. Although we've seen the Assault Vest variant on Naoto's side of the field, looks like Arash is sticking with the tried and tested Focus Sash variant. And, you know, that's exactly what you need in this particular situation. The Zacian has been hit with fake out, so it's not going to be able to move. You know you're going to survive anything from that Regieleki, so you can go for this powerful Surging Strikes without having to worry and catch this Grimmsnarl on the switch in. Once again, 1, 2, and then a third and final Surging Strikes. Isn't going to be enough to pick up the KO. Grimmsnarl going to be able to hang on with 7 HP, gain a little bit of recovery from the grassy terrain. But now if you're Naoto, you have a few options to consider with your Grimmsnarl. What are you going to look into?
The Grimmsnarl, I think, is more of unfortunately, the switch in that you're just giving up to get a better board position, and something has to come in, right? When you Volt Switch out, something's got to give, you know. And with the choices on your team, do you throw him the Incineroar when you could get hit with the Surging Strikes? Absolutely not. Do you throw up the Grimmsnarl, who's kind of done its job and bought you enough time to get a foothold in this game? Yeah, probably. I think that's the way you can look at it and say, well, I'll give that one up, and it's maybe I can weave in another screen or you know, a cheeky little Thunder Wave if possible. So nicely done, and being able to actually get that move, I think absolutely fine. The Urshifu brought down to its Sash. Nice reveal from Naoto, something he can take into potential game 3 with the knowledge of, and something Arash just knows he's going to try and play around.
But that's the thing, you've got this opportunity with Grimmsnarl to either try and set out that light screen or, you know, also go for that Thunder Wave. But I think Arash bringing in the Incineroar here, just in case Thunder Wave was maybe going in the direction of that Rillaboom. You don't necessarily want to try and target down that opposing Urshifu. It has very limited HP remaining and is going to go for this Detect anyway. So with Foresight, you might know not to target that down. It looks like it is going to be the light screen here, just preparing for the Calyrex in the back there. Going to be the Behemoth Blade coming out from the Zacian. Going to be able to apply some good pressure here, going down into that opposing Incineroar. However, you know, something like the Sacred Sword would be more optimal, but Incineroar switching in here, going to be able to take that, apply some Fake Out into this next turn as well. And I think that really is kind of the storyline we're seeing in this particular set throughout. These Fake Out Pokemon coming in, applying pressure, being a little bit disruptive here. And then again, if you're that Zacian, you need to make sure that you're able to capitalize on any boost that you give yourself and negate any of the Intimidates that you're taking as well. It's going to, everything really come down to how Naoto is going to be able to position the Zacian throughout the rest of this game.
Well, the Zacian's the focal point, and I think the Zacian just needs to get things low enough that maybe Regieleki can come in and just start tidying up and dealing with whatever Zacian can't. The big concern right now, I guess, is when am I seeing that Shadow Rider Calyrex again? We've not seen it since the early portion of the game, so you've just got to be prepared for it. And I like Naoto planning ahead, going, you know what, it's going to be a big thing, have a light screen, and we'll be able to get through when it does arrive.
Exactly, just knowing that you have that option there to be able to just protect your Pokemon a little bit more for when it comes back in. Having Light Clay on there as well is going to give longevity to those screens that have been set up. And poor Zacian, once again, taking another Fake Out here. It keeps taking all this chip damage and then regaining it to grassy terrain. Rillaboom going to have to take the Spirit Break. Not going to worry about that too much at all, neither the drop or the damage. You know, not really very impactful here at all. But I think, again, the critical thing, these Pokemon coming onto the field for Arash can once again start burning through these kind of screen turns, going for those Fake Outs, switching around, intimidating to weaken this Zacian as well. Naoto really just have to think of a way to kind of either capitalize on these switches, try and pick up KOs as Arash is able to bring a Pokemon in, or find a way to just chip away at them. So like you said, Adam, when Regieleki can come in from the back, it can pick up those solid KOs.
My question really is, how many times are you going to fake out the Zacian? Because I think that's 3 in this game. And yes, you're getting the fake outs down. You're not taking the damage from big Behemoth Blades and Sacred Swords. But you're also not really capitalizing on it that well. And I think that's something that Arash might need to change going into potential game 3. Like, it's great to fake out the Zacian. It's phenomenal to stop it hitting you. But is the board position he's getting in return for that, being able to switch something in, worth it? And I think in a number of cases here, it's not quite been top value. So has to consider that one, you know, when looking and adjusting for another game.
No, I fully agree. In game 1, Arash was able to use the Fake Out to really optimize getting the substitute up onto that Calyrex, for example. But in this game, Naoto really hasn't given him the opportunity to be able to do that, has been able to apply a lot of pressure to that Calyrex. And I think Arash knows it's a Pokemon that he's going to need towards the end of this game. You know, when you only have this kind of one restricted, you want to make sure that you preserve it well. And it's not just, you know, being KO'd for nothing in return, if that makes sense. You want to make sure that if there is a trade-off, you are going to be able to capitalize on it somehow. Arash bringing that Urshifu in from the back, you know, very, very low HP at this stage, but does still allow him to bring the Incineroar back in a little bit later on while still protecting that Calyrex and its Pokeball in the back.
The Calyrex has been scared since early on in the game. It's not showing up. It's not coming back anytime soon. I think it's waiting for the Zacian to leave the field and maybe give it a little more of an option to get there. But if you don't bring that, I mean, the Rillaboom and the Incineroar have provided very supportive roles, which have been key. I think the Rillaboom is going to be a real big answer to the Regieleki, actually. Just being able to avoid the speed nonsense entirely, make sure you got grassy terrain up and just grassy glide it down nice and early is going to be really, really important. And that's probably why Arash is saving that one as well. But the amount of switching going on, making sure you intimidate land, again, it's just a bit of a slow burn. And I think Arash needs to find that opportunity to turn on the offense.
Yeah, you're right. Another switch in here and a Detect coming out from that Urshifu. Not going to be able to take any damage here. But Zacian capitalizing on this, you know, Naoto spotting that Arash is playing very defensively and not capitalizing on these fake outs, able to get that Swords Dance back up into play and negate, obviously, some of these Intimidates that are being thrown down by the opposing Incineroar. So Naoto slowly creeping into the game to get to a position where he can start dealing out some KOs, dealing that damage, and just stopping Arash from having the switchability options of all 4 Pokemon. Picking up a KO here or there is going to force that Calyrex to come back onto the field, and then Naoto can target it down.
Getting that Calyrex in is basically what Naoto's waiting for, and Arash just isn't offering it up to him. He knows that it's the win condition for him at the end, knows he's going to play smart around it, so just keeping it safe might be a little bit frustrating. But Naoto, playing it wise, playing it calmly, you know, setting up swords dances to deal with the just ongoing intimidates that he's been receiving as well. Really, really smart. I like that he's doing that, and I like, for once, he's not taking the fake out this turn. He's making sure he protects away. There it is. No fake out for you.
Yeah, Zacian just protecting herself from one of many fake outs in this game. However, the Urshifu is going to be able to go for that Surging Strikes. Only one this time is needed to pick up the KO against that Grimmsnarl. And I think Naoto really just bringing it in here to, you know, unfortunately be KO'd, but then now have the option to bring a Pokemon back in from the back. Probably going to be, I would say, that Incineroar just to throw down another Intimidate, another Fake Out, because I feel like you might want to keep your Regieleki in the back. But then again, of course, you could bring it through. We know that it's the speedier Pokemon, particularly with that Choice Scarf on there. It can pick up some good damage against this opposing Urshifu that obviously no longer has a Focus Sash intact.
Yeah, well, you can try and knock out the Urshifu. You could, you know, work around it that way and just try and push on. You could just deal some damage to the Incineroar and get rid of it that way. So, a lot riding on this Regieleki. It wouldn't shock me to see the Regieleki leave the field, come back in a little bit later, but just deal great damage and once again land another Incineroar, Intimidate down and make these two really nigh on useless. So a lot to think about, but Naoto, actually the first one to lose a Pokemon, has to be a little bit more thoughtful with his switches.
And you know, I really think this could be a pivotal turn here in the game. Naoto's brought in the Regieleki, can apply a lot of great pressure to the opposing Urshifu here, for example. With Zacian applying that Sacred Sword into what was the Incineroar, could easily have, you know, done huge damage, possibly even picked up a KO. But bringing in the Calyrex here in the face of that potential fighting type move, obviously with the Ghost typing, not going to have to worry about it at all. But Regieleki going for that speed option here, going for that Electro Web with Choice Scarf. It is going to now be locked into this move. Would have been enough to pick up a KO against that opposing Urshifu due to the dwindled HP. But I think critically, you have got a speed drop onto that opposing Calyrex now.
The Calyrex finally showed up, and it wasn't the right time. It came in on the Electro Web and is now, I'd argue, in a good bit of danger. You know, it's going to get hit with another Electro Web if it doesn't protect or stays on the field. So it's going to get caught with another Electro Web. That Urshifu's so low, and with the Choice Scarf, you know, the Regieleki can really go whole hog when training it in the special attack. So, you know, it's going to be able to just get absolutely everything it wants. And once that Calyrex is slow, then all of a sudden these Sacred Swords, these Behemoth Blades are picking up knockouts left and right. So, yes, you managed to save the Urshifu, but at what cost? I mean, is this Calyrex just going to get caught as soon as it comes in?
Yeah, and you can see the timer animation coming up there as well. This game 2 is sort of dwindling into its final stages here, and the KOs are going to really start adding up. Calyrex going for the Protect here. We know the Regieleki is going to be able to go for one of those Electro Webs. Not going to be able to find its mark on Calyrex, of course, but will be able to connect down onto that opposing Rillaboom. I guess if you're Rillaboom, the advantage of having so much priority in the form of Grassy Glide and Fake Out means you don't have to worry too much about these particular drops. But you do still have to, of course, worry about this Zacian going for that powerful Behemoth Blade down into the opposing Rillaboom. And looks like it is enough to be able to pick up a KO against it and remove that Pokemon from the field. So Arash has one less Pokemon to switch around here in the face of Regieleki and Zacian, who seem to be sort of stacking up to be quite a formidable pair here. The support you get from Regieleki lowering the speed, allowing that Zacian to be able to try and capitalize on getting a KO. This could be a sort of strategy for success here in this game too.
That was a really big turn, and throwing down the Behemoth Blade at that right-handed slot where the Urshifu once stood. So wise, actually, from Naoto, calling the potential switch, saying, okay, well, if you want to save your Urshifu, that's fine. You've already detected, so you're going to switch, and whatever it is going to get really, really hurt by this. So I'll throw down the double attack. I think your Calyrex is going to play it safe, and I think calling that Protect on Calyrex, going after the other slot, just so wise, and putting Naoto quite honestly in the driving seat. I don't know what this Calyrex can do. Probably has to do something and take advantage this turn, as the Incineroar, you know, will buy a little bit of time with the Fake Out, but has to use that Fake Out to set out a substitute or something.
Yeah, I'm very glad to see Naoto retreating that Regieleki in the face of a Fake Out and Astral Barrage combination. Incineroar going to join the field here as the Zacian is going to be able to protect up here. Incineroar does indeed go for that Fake Out into what was the Regieleki. Is definitely a troublesome Pokemon for Arash's strategy here, but it does allow Calyrex to finally capitalize on one of the Fake Outs Arash has thrown out in this game and set up that substitute, just buying it a little bit more time to survive out of this game. You can see the final minute has come up on the clock here for this game too.
We have been in this one quite some time. We've been playing through this for a while now, and to see them go down to timer shows just how long they took trying to weave in and wiggle through that board position. So both trainers are probably going to have to take stock of where they are very, very specifically. And they haven't gone down on your time, but their command timer really, really low. This is going to be wrapped up real quick, but they're both at 3-3. It could come down to just how much health they have, and the Calyrex is behind the sub, so that's not going to take much damage.
No, exactly. The Incineroar does go down, though, however, for Arash. So able to kind of take that critical KO as we go into these last 10 seconds here. That really can swing the winner of this game, too. The
you need to knock out.
Not enough to pick up a KO against either of Naoto's Pokemon here, as the timer has run down. So absolutely critical there from Naoto, being able to KO that opposing Incineroar as the Flare Blitz goes into the Calyrex. And I believe this, will it be enough to remove? Yeah, it will. We'll get rid of that substitute as well at the end of this game too. And I mean, what a dynamic turn to round out this particular game of the set.
I mean, that just changes the Pokemon count. Naoto knew what he needed to do, knew how to win the game when the timer did become a factor, and just says, I've got Sacred Sword, so get out of here, Incineroar. You don't have Fake Out this time. You don't have any way to protect yourself. So now with the count at 3-2, that just, takes it and wraps it up for Naoto. But this game has been so good as an exhibition on how to position your board. And I think, yes, it's been one of the longer games of the day, but there's so much that people watching at home can learn from and kind of play through. That Zacian just sat on the field for so long. It got barraged with fake outs. It got hit with everything. It intimidates. It didn't really get hit with many attacks, just fake outs. It had to weave in swords dances, but at the end, because of how well it had been looked after, it put him in the Pokemon count advantage and wrapped up the game for Naoto. So really, really good set. And I imagine game 3 is going to be pretty lengthy as well.
I mean, this is the thing, it's the Invitational, and the caliber of our players is phenomenal. We've got 2 players here who are both world champions, and you can see the way that they're able to calculate, think turns ahead, and really kind of almost like chess, really think through how all the turns are going to be and where you want your Pokemon to be, which moves and counter moves you want to play through. And you could see that masterfully played by both these players here. Not only were they thinking about what they wanted, but they were really reading about what their opponent was going to do and trying to counter that in their own way as well. And although it might have seemed a little bit slow at the beginning, every single move was critical. I think one mistake either way, one switch that you call incorrectly could have swung the momentum into the opposing player's favor. And I think just at the end there, when Naoto was able to bring out the wonderful Regieleki and apply that sort of electro web pressure, and then obviously the big KO pressure as well when you know that it's in the back, was just a really great adjustment. So we know I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing that Pokemon in game 3.
Yeah, I think it was a really big factor, actually, in the way that it pushed on. I'll be curious to see if he brings it again, because it did do so much work. I think the way it applied pressure with the Electro Web can't be understated. That Calyrex was just in so much trouble. And, of course, huge damage to the Urshifu as well, which was a really big part of Arash's cleanup in game number 1. This does come down to game number 3, and this is a best-of-1 single elimination, essentially, because if you lose this game, you go home. They're all fantastic players, but we can't take all of them through the rest of the day with us. So let's dive into game number 3. Let's see how it goes. I think it's going to be a slower game. That's just my prediction. But not everything can be a high-octane, kind of rip-roaring ride. Sometimes you need a little bit a slower burn. Not everything can be Fast and Furious. Sometimes you want to watch Downton Abbey. That's just how
Definitely. I mean, this is the thing. This match, we are going to have one player staying in the competition, and we're going to actually be sending a player home. They're going to be knocked out, and it's going to be either Naoto or Arash staying on or leaving the competition. So Arash are bringing out the Calyrex and the Incineroar, with Naoto bringing out Grimmsnarl and the Incineroar as well. So lots of Intimidates going around here, and Naoto actually not bringing that Zacian out as the lead this time.
That Zacian staying in the back is an interesting adjustment, and I think that's sort of respecting how much those Intimidates have been annoying, how getting caught by those fake outs over and over again have been annoying too. Naoto with a very defensive lead though, not really much offensive pressure, just saying, yeah, I want to set up for the rest of the game and try and push through it once I've got a little bit of what I wanted.
Well, no fake out coming here from Arash's Incineroar for once. Just going to go straight for that parting shot and just retreat from the field. Also, the Calyrex going for that protect there, just wanting to stop any damage coming out its way and, giving Arash the opportunity to go for one pivot straight away here in kind of turn 0 of the match. It's going to be that Rillaboom to no surprise. So the fake out is still going to be a pressure going forward. And Rillaboom does have the luxury of now coming in unintimidated as well. So can apply a little bit of kind of offensive pressure as well going into this next term.
Being able to bring that Rillaboom in safely, really, really nice, I think, for Arash. It does get caught on the way in. It's not the safest switch. And while he said it doesn't get intimidated, it doesn't have much fun with the parting shot anyway. Does give us access to look at exactly what Naoto bought, and I think bringing the same four, very, very wise. Really like that play from him, being able to set that up. And now he feels like, yep, you know what? It's another angle. Good time for Zacian. Definitely too early for the Regieleki. He's just going to have to set it up as, hey, that Incineroar's available for the Intimidate and the Fake Out again.
Yeah, I definitely jinxed that Rillaboom. I think they're being like, it's coming unintimidated. Oh, but wait, parting shot's going to kind of still deal with that as well. It's lovely to see the Zacian come in here for Naoto, able to get that Intrepid Sword boost up and then maybe try and start dealing out that offensive pressure earlier on in this game 3, as opposed to kind of the slower starts that we saw in game 1 and 2. Again, with the Grimmsnarl, you have so many options here. Unless, of course, you take the fake out from the Rillaboom, you can set up either of your screens here, or potentially go, of course, for that Thunder Wave as well, and maybe start slowing down one of the opposing Pokemon. Incineroar going to switch in for Arash, though. It's back. We said goodbye to it only moments ago, and it's back in action here, applying that Intimidate to negate the Intrepid Sword boost, and then, of course, apply Fake Out in that next turn. And also, it could potentially catch the Thunder Wave coming out from that Grimmsnarl. Zacian is going to have to take another Fake Out. I wish I'd kept a tally the whole way through this particular set. And the Thunder Wave was indeed going into that opposing Calyrex. So a great switch there from Arash, really kind of stopping Naoto in his tracks.
Naoto Zacian has got to be really, really tired of this. It's happened so many times, but it's a big feature of Arash's team, right? He does have access to 2 fake outs, so, is able to keep applying that pressure, and every time it's like Zacian getting caught by it, not able to set anything up, and just really, really slowing it down. I don't think this Grimmsnarl has been able to get enough done either, wasting time with 2 Thunder Waves, one into the Protect, another into the Dark type, and the Prankster, of course, being a bit of a downfall for it there. I think Arash's board positioning has been a little bit better this game, and making, light work of what this Grimmsnarl's throwing at it, and just keeping the Zacian just out of the game by throwing hands every time with the fake out. There it is!
One more fake out. This Zacian's got to be so frustrated right now in this particular match. The U-turn coming out from that Rillaboom, though, going to go into that opposing Grimmsnarl, do a little bit of damage. And just once again, we see Arash rotating through his Pokemon here, making sure the ball position is going to be utilized in his favor as the turns go down, as well as once again stopping the Zacian from doing anything that might deal the slightest of damage to any of Arash's Pokemon. Got to be frustrating for that Zacian. But once again, the Grimmsnarl seems to be in a position where he can start, setting up those screens and, adding those defensive measures to Naoto's side of the field.
Well, getting confirmation on the 4th Pokemon may help Naoto with some of his kind of game planning a little bit as we work through this one. No screens this time, though, just going after it with the Spirit Break. So this could end up being a quicker game. If Arash can land attacks before any screens go up, this is going to be a very different game.
Yeah, brilliant ball positioning here from Arash, being able to apply pressure with Incineroar, as well as having that Urshifu that we've seen how destructive it can be, particularly in the face of that Zacian. You want to be able to try and deal some solid damage against it here, particularly if you can stop it once again in its tracks from moving. So if you're Naoto, this could be the opportunity where you maybe want to switch around your ball position as well and try and apply some pressure to that opposing Urshifu here before it can deal any good damage to you.
Hey, it got the Focus Sash broken on the way in, and that is going to be a definite factor in making it a lot more manageable. And I think seeing that Naoto making the switch to say, all right, let's get after it, let's go for it. And hey, finally a screen for the Grimmsnarl. Setting those up will definitely be important for the late portion of this game, but this switching could get punished.
Oh, yeah, the Regieleki, as happy as it is to be here, it's going to be a little bit sadder after taking these 3 Surging Strikes. Is able to survive, though, on 19 HP, and, it's slowed down a little bit, but it's going to be able to apply some pressure. And oh, no, it's not. The Flare Blitz has doubled up into it. Goodbye, Regieleki. It's been delightful having you in Game 3, but back to the Pokeball you go.
Don't cry, Lou. It tried its best. It came in It really wanted to help, but that's such a dangerous switch from Naoto, saying, I do want Regieleki in, actually. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think getting the Zacian out, really, really smart, but it's just not bulky enough to do that. And I think what was really successful in game number 2 was it was able to come in at great times. It was kind of given switches through something like the Grimmsnarl leaving or the Incineroar leaving as well. But just a hard switch at the beginning of the turn in the slot of the most threatening Pokemon on Naoto's side. Not the way to get Regieleki in safely. And this game, I think, is very much in Arash's favor now. Yes, the Zacian's come back in safely, but one of the biggest threats from game 2 is just gone.
Yeah, I mean, I do fully understand the play by Naoto. You want to preserve that Zacian. Now can come in unintimidated, get that Intrepid Sword booster. But at what cost, Adam? Regieleki is no more in this particular match. Zacian, however, can now apply some good pressure. You can go for those Sacred Swords into the opposing Incineroar or try and deal some good damage to that opposing Urshifu as well. Like you mentioned, the Focus Sash was broken by that Spirit Break as well. You can try and capitalize on maybe a switch that Arash could make or a defensive play. You could even go for one of those cheeky Swords dances. But I think you'd rather go for that when you've got your own Incineroar on the field. So it's good that Naoto has brought that Pokemon back in, throw the Intimidate down against both of these physical attackers as well. As Zacian does indeed go for the Swords Dance here, so going to be applying some good pressure. I believe now going to be at +3 attack, correct me if I'm wrong, Adam, as the Urshifu able to go for the Surging Strikes, going to target down into the Zacian, going to be able to take these reasonably well, but of course it is still damage going down into it, and if the opposing Incineroar decided to follow up with something like a Flare Blitz and is maybe even able to get something like a critical hit here, it's going to be devastating. But no, instead it's just going to be the parting shot. You know, that's good for Zacian here. It's got so many beasts, it doesn't mind maybe losing one. But once again, Arash now has the opportunity to bring Incineroar back in later, intimidate, fake out once again.
And breathe. When it moved over to the Incineroar, I thought we were getting the Flare Blitz and then we were going to have to play the game, and would it do enough? That's really, really good for Naoto, managing to get the Swords Dance, get to the +3. I mean, it's going to take a long old time to intimidate that one down and be able to really set up for the rest of this game. The Incineroar just parting shotting. Yes, you're lowering that attack stat. You are helping yourself out there. You know, you're getting yourself out for another Intimidate. But is it enough to slow down this Zacian? You know, the Zacian took those Surging Strikes real well. Is probably feeling pretty good, especially now the Incineroar's on the field next to it.
Well, that's the thing. You've got the Incineroar able to apply the fake out pressure to that opposing Urshifu. So if you're the Zacian, the only thing you really have to worry about is a potential Astral Barrage coming out from this opposing Calyrex. But of course, if you're the Zacian, you can still deal out some really good damage of your own. If you're able to take one of those Astral Barrages, you can then still retaliate, possibly, you know, even pick up a KO here or there. But again, if you are that Incineroar, you can always kind of call if the Urshifu maybe is going to go for a Detect on this turn, or if Arash is going to make a switch in, not even go for the fake out, and instead jump on the offensive and go for kind of a double target, maybe into that opposing Calyrex and try and pick up a KO.
That Calyrex, if it can weave in the damage it needs, could swing the game very, very quickly. I mean, it's just going straight for it. No subs, no nonsense. It's just trying to deal the requisite damage, and it's not quite enough.
No, not going to be enough here. Zacian is able to hang on and going to go for this Behemoth Blade. Going to be targeting down into that opposing Calyrex. Again, no substitute or anything. Picks up a solid KO against it here and just removes it straight away from the field. And Incineroar, of course, not going for any kind of moves here yet either. Urshifu, however, going to go for that Surging Strikes once again. This really is the move we keep seeing from this opposing Urshifu, and it's able to pick up the KO against the Zacian here, leaving the Incineroar unchecked, of course. But it looks like, oh, not too sure what's... Oh, here we go. It's going for the Darkest Lariat. Unfortunately, my translation is not as quick as I would like it to be, but, you know, not dealing too much damage there, but a good little bit of information reveal. We haven't seen that as of yet, Adam.
The Japanese might not be great, but the animation gives it away. One of the best in the game, and actually a very unique choice. You know, maybe expecting the Calyrex to still be in play, throwing that down means that Urshifu is very safe. And that turn actually, I think, is phenomenal for Arash. I think there, you gladly give up your Calyrex to get the damage down and deal with the Zacian. Just because Naoto really doesn't have any other kind of offensive options on his team, it's just stuck with this Grimmsnarl, which can Spirit Break you down slowly, and this Incineroar, which You know, the Darkest Lariat wasn't really the play against Urshifu, and the Incineroar is just going to fall to a simple Surging Strike. So these last two just not looking good for Naoto. And yes, you took out the Calyrex, but once again, at what cost? This looks like a bit of a desperate play to keep his tournament going.
Yeah, fingers crossed if you're Naoto for those paralyses. Looks like it actually got one down onto that opposing Urshifu, so a lucky break there for Naoto. But now, again, you're only down to your Incineroar and the Grimmsnarl here, and I'm not sure if the two of them combined are going to be enough to pick up good damage against both these Pokemon. Incineroar in particular, you know, if you're Naoto, both of your Pokemon don't really have a way to be able to deal good damage against them in this situation. And Arash does still have that capability to switch out and switch back in as well. Keep going for that fake out and chip away at Naoto's Pokemon.
And Naoto is very limited in options for protecting, right? Like, he's going to be taking damage every single turn. There's no protect on the Incineroar. There's no protect available on the Grimmsnarl either. So what are you going to do? You know, how are you going to try and work through? You're in a Pokemon disadvantage, and it's going to get difficult. So something like this Rillaboom can come in, complete control of the terrain. No one's answering that on Naoto's side of the field, and it's just going to be able to start absolutely wailing on you. And I think bringing that in from Arash, very, very wise, kind of saying, you know what, I'll only use the Urshifu if I need to. I'm not going to leave it on the field while it's paralyzed.
Yeah, and these are really nice save plays here from Arash, you know, really trying to dwindle down the offensive pressure that Naoto is able to got here, you know, going for those parting shots, just reducing any of the offensive stats here, and then making sure that Incineroar's in the back to come back out, intimidate the opposing Incineroar. You know, Naoto doesn't have the luxury of the switchability plays here. Goes for the Flare Blitz into the opposing Rillaboom. You see is really able to take that well, does just over 50% damage, and with the Urshifu coming back into play, we've seen how much damage those Surging Strikes can do, and down into Incineroar, it's going to be dealing huge, huge impact here. I don't think the Berry is even going to be enough to save Incineroar here. Damage going down into that opposing Rillaboom, you know, again, just chipping away at it, but you can see the kind of underwhelming pressure that Naoto has here at the moment. The attacks are just simply not dealing enough damage at the moment.
The only way he can deal big damage is with the Flare Blitz as well. And yes, the Grassy Terrain is going to help with the recovery, but if you want to be dealing that big damage, you're going to have to do damage to yourself. The Darkest Lariat isn't going to be able to apply the same kind of pressure, particularly against the Urshifu. We saw how little it did, so definitely gets a little bit limited. And I like that Arash knew that the Rillaboom could come in and be safe enough. And here we go. You know, Naoto just letting the Flare Blitzes wear him down. He gets the Rillaboom, but at what cost?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, it's going to have to take that recoil. It's already had its berry as well. And once the Grassy Terrain goes away, there really is no utility to be able to gain any HP recovery. But the Surging Strikes coming out from this opposing Urshifu, I think, are just going to be able to deal very swiftly with this Urshifu. It only took 2 out of the 3 to be able to pick up the KO. And unfortunately, Grimmsnarl just is not the powerhouse of a Pokemon that you need in order to try and pick up the KOs against the rest of Arash's team.
No, it has one offensive move. It has access to just the Spirit Break, and it's not going to be able to fight this one back. So a really, really long set. Both trainers very conscious of board position at all times, but we are going to be saying bye to our first player. You know, there's just no way this Grimmsnarl can fight this one back, and what a way to go, going down fighting. But our most recent world champion looks to be felled by the furthest back world champion that we have here in this tournament.
Yeah, and you know, one more fake out for the road I think Arash is going for here. Unfortunately, Urshifu not able to deal any damage in this turn thanks to the paralysis. But you know, there's certainly been a lot of fake outs in this particular game, and throughout the whole set, in all honesty. And I think that's one thing that Arash has been able to do really well, is kind of just stop Naoto in his tracks and kind of just stop those kind of setups from happening and the damage from being dealt out. And, you know, now you're really pinned down into the situation. The Flare Blitz not going to deal too much damage, but as we said, there's really not a lot that Grimmsnarl can do in this position. It's going to go for the Spirit Break, though, however, into that Urshifu, just deal a little bit of a chunk. But as long as Urshifu is able to break through this paralysis, it's going to be able to deal some huge damage with the Surging Strikes once again. It's been amazing, this move on this Pokemon in this particular game. It's picked up lots of KOs, done so much destructive damage. And you can see the third one coming out here into the Grimmsnarl to steal up the set. Arash will be advancing into our losers bracket into the next round, and unfortunately we will have to say goodbye to Naoto Mizobuchi.
Fantastic game, fantastic